Hello, welcome to the Sound of Science, the place where we deconstruct unscientific bogus and silly scams. Let's go get them. Hello to you all, my fellow critical thinkers. As many of you know, in my videos I assess the reasons that people have to believe things. And often their reasons to believe things are very bad. That especially is the case with many Christians who simply cannot provide one shred of evidence to prove the existence of their God. Often I refute, let's say, the budget apologists. It's the kind of Christians who try to parrot the professional Christian apologists, but then they even fail miserably at that. Sometimes my viewers ask me to review the ideas of more professional and trained Christian apologists. I often do that, and I've made numerous videos about William Lane Craig, Frank Turek, Ray Comfort, and more of these clowns. The problem is that their arguments are just as bad as the arguments of their budget minions. Today I'm going to give it another try. I found this channel of a Christian apologist called Brian Holdsworth. He has got 107,000 subscribers on YouTube now, and most of his fans praise him for being profound and balanced in his points of view. Although I yet have to find even one Christian apologist who makes any sense, I'll give this one a try. At least Brian Holdsworth looks like a nice guy, so let's go.
Obviously, atheists come in all shapes and sizes, and inevitably whenever I offer any kind of argument about atheism or against atheism, people will say, not all atheists believe that, not all atheists believe the same thing. That's a straw man argument. And that's true, not all atheists believe the same thing.
Alright, so then perhaps you misrepresented atheism, and that it would be a good idea to just stick to what atheism really is, which is not believing the claim that a God exists. That really is the only thing that all atheists have in common. So just stick to that, and then you can address all atheists, and then your problem will not exist. And I am a bit surprised that you didn't think of that yourself, but let's continue.
But a 10-minute YouTube video doesn't allow me to address every variation of atheism that exists.
But you don't need to address all types of atheism that exist. Again, just address the only thing that all atheists have in common, which is not believing the claim that a God exists.
And if what I describe doesn't align with your particular form of atheism, then you can be confident that I'm not addressing you, and then therefore there's no need to be defensive.
But there would be reason to be defensive if what you describe as a form of atheism is not a form of atheism at all, because then you would be misrepresenting atheism, which is a thing that many Christian apologists are doing all the time. But you are the reasonable, profound guy. At least that is what your fans tell us. So you would never misrepresent atheism, would you?
The particular kind of atheism that I'm addressing in this video is the kind that says that only what can be materially observed and empirically measured is real, and that if you want to assert anything as true, that is the kind of evidence that you need to provide.
But what are you doing? That has got nothing to do with atheism. Just like all the other Christian apologists out there, being it the professionals or their budget minions, you are again misrepresenting atheism. None of what you said is a property of atheism. So now it looks that under the cover of not being able to address all types of atheism, you are going to address a viewpoint that is not any type of atheism at all. That is not a good start. And if you wouldn't look like a nice guy, I would now highly suspect you of dishonestly framing atheism into a position that has got nothing to do with atheism. Again, atheism only is not believing the claim that a God exists. So I'm highly doubting if your reasoning is going to lead anywhere sensible. But let's continue despite all of that?
I've done a lot of searching myself to see, are there atheists out there? Are there commentators? Are there even scholars who answer this? And I don't seem to be able to find one that is satisfying.
Well, if you can't find an atheist who's dealing with that topic in the way you want them to, that is because the topic you describe has got nothing to do with atheism. So you're now very well on your way with framing atheism into a position it doesn't take in the first place. So yes, you are just trying to pull a straw man on atheism here, just as you kind of predicted yourself.
The question is slavery wrong?
Is slavery wrong? Well, let's first agree that, again, that has got nothing to do with atheism. The problem is that if you Christian apologists keep suggesting that slavery somehow is an atheism thing, while in reality it's a Christianity thing, because that darn book of Leviticus tells you how to beat up your slaves, remember? Chances are we will never get into any meaningful conversation. If you want to have a meaningful conversation about atheism, then don't misrepresent atheism. So for the sake of the argument, I will answer your question, despite the fact that it has got nothing to do with atheism. The first problem with your question is that it is very offensive to suggest that you can't find atheists who can answer this question. I've never met any atheist in my life who needed to think more than 1 second about this question. Of course, slavery is wrong. The only people who don't know if slavery is wrong seem to be Christian apologists, and it really upsets me that a nice-looking guy like yourself is asking this question. Is slavery wrong? Slavery means owning other people as property, forcing them with the threat of violence to obey you. How dare you to even ask if this is wrong? Of course, slavery is very, very wrong. It is offensive to even suggest that there might be a context in which slavery is not wrong. It is offensive to suggest that atheists have no answer to this question. And of course, I know where this is going, because I've had this conversation 1,000 times. On top of all of this, it's silly to suggest that we need some kind of guard to understand why slavery is wrong. It's really offensive to suggest all of that. It's an insult to human intellect. So normally this would be the end of the conversation, but for the sake of the argument, let's see if you can turn this narrative into something more sensible that is not extremely offensive. Let's continue.
And I even hear many atheists accuse the Bible of being morally inferior for not going far enough in its condemnations of slavery.
The Bible is not going far enough in its condemnation of slavery. No, it's much worse, of course. The Bible describes explicitly how to beat up your slaves in Leviticus. When it comes to slavery, the Bible is a total mess. The Bible should have spent only 1 sentence on slavery at the very start of the Old Testament, and it should go like this. Slavery is wrong, and you're not allowed to own, buy, or sell people as property. That is all the Bible should have said about slavery. The issue is not that atheists rightly point out that the Bible totally fails in addressing slavery. The real issue is that hardly any Christian acknowledges this. Most Christians I encounter try to justify slavery as it's described in the Bible. Any Christian who believes in love and peace should forcefully reject the biblical regulations of slavery and support a much better phrasing than the Bible offers right now.
But I don't think that the atheist of the variety that I described earlier can answer this question sufficiently. By that, I don't mean that they don't have answers, just that their answers are illogical.
But I'm an atheist, and I just answered that question sufficiently. Slavery is wrong. What is illogical about that? Christian apologists so often question the exact wrong things. Is slavery wrong is a question you should never ask, because it suggests that it's up for debate if slavery is wrong. And that suggestion alone could cost someone's life in the future. So slavery is wrong, no matter what context you can fantasize. Anyone who thinks slavery is okay is an immoral thug. There you have your answer from an atheist, despite the fact that your question has got nothing to do with atheism. How is that possible? do many Christians ask, if atheism has got nothing to do with slavery, then how can an atheist answer a question about slavery? Yeah, really. I've had hundreds of Christians seriously asking me this question. Sometimes they start to understand if I ask them if they know how to bake an omelette. If they say yes, I ask them, how is that possible? Because Christianity doesn't address how to bake an omelette. And then sometimes they do see the light and realize that they know how to bake an omelette, because not all of what they know or think comes from Christianity. And then we're getting somewhere. It's the same with atheism. Most atheists probably have a position on slavery, but they don't get that position from atheism. Why? Because atheism only is the position of not believing the claim that a God exists. It's that simple. So the problem that you describe of atheism not having an answer to questions about slavery is non-existent. And I think you know that. It's like attacking baseball for not providing answers about slavery. Baseball just hasn't got anything to do with slavery, just like atheism. It doesn't mean that baseball players or atheists can't give answers regarding slavery. They can, but they just don't get their answers about slavery from baseball or atheism. And you Christian apologists, you just can't find a way to dismantle the atheism position. So, what do? You misrepresent atheism. And throughout the years, Christian apologists have misrepresented atheism so often that their gullible believers parrot this false narrative. Now, if you want to know what a particular atheist thinks about slavery, fine. Just ask me or any other atheist. Most of us can give you an answer. Even better, we give you the right answer. Slavery is wrong. But that answer has got nothing to do with atheism. We get that answer from other sources. So my request to you is to never again say that atheism cannot answer questions about slavery. It is a false and dishonest narrative. Ideally, I would have liked to cover the entire 12-minute video of Brian Holdsworth. The problem is, and this is very typical for almost every video of a Christian apologist, that we are only 1 or 2 minutes into their video, and they already totally misrepresent atheism. That way it often is impossible for atheists to get through the entire video. Sweet mother of Gandalf. That was it for today. Oh, and while you're here, please subscribe to my channel. That way you will help me to make more videos, to enhance the voice of critical thinking, and to spread the sound of science.